Hi, this is Matt Bufford. Welcome back to my workshop. Today we're going to keep going on with the knife we've been working on. Today we're going to work on Filework and we're going to prep it for heat treat. Now on this knife all I'm going to be doing is some basic jimping, thumb rest essentially. But the process is the same for any type of Filework. If you Google online you can see myriad different Filework patterns, the vine works, the rope works, and all kinds of other crazy tribal looking stuff. But the basic process is the same. It's just the angles and the directions you cut with the file. So the tools for this, I'm going to use basically just a simple ruler, a carbide scribe, and a triangle file. If you're doing any other type of file work, you'll probably use several different files. A small round file, a flat file, a bastard file, and the triangle file all come in handy depending on what pattern you're doing. So come on in here at the camera. So on the knife, considering my handle is going to stop right about here, and I want my thumb rest to start right about here, I'm going to go and make my starting line right there. That's not tight enough. Alright, so now that I've got that line scribed in, lay my file down, and I'll just make a mark every 1/8 inch. And you can do as many or as few indents as you like. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and one more for good measure, and 8. So from there I'm just going to take my ruler and mark those lines across. And what you're doing with this is essentially you're giving yourself your starting point for your file. And again, if you're doing vine work or rope work or anything else, you're going to do the same thing as far as your indent marks, different spaces accordingly, but how you use the file is going to be the big difference, which is going to change your end result. Okay. So from there, I'm going to take my basic triangle file and I'm just going to lightly glide it over. Give myself a starting point on each line. I'm going to go down the line and do this for each one on both sides of the blade. Once I have that, then I can continue on. But getting that starting point is fairly crucial because if you don't do that, you can cause the file to slip around and you can totally destroy your file work. And before anybody yells at me, I know I'm going the wrong way with my file, and I know that it can damage my file, but it's a cheap file, and I don't really care as far as control for doing these starting lines. It works better for me going this way than to go the other way where you have more bite, and it's harder to control once it slips off of that bite. Alright, so now I'm at the point I've gotten my little sidelines done on each of them, and if you can get a good top view on it, you're starting to see kind of a diamond pattern for me, which is obviously one of the file works you can do. And if a diamond pattern is what you're going for, just kind of finish out your diamonds, you can finish up and smooth out your file work from there. But for the jimping, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start down on the ridge that I've already created, and I'm going to roll up a little bit because I've got basically the apex of each triangle touching each other. I'm going to roll up a little bit and start to join those triangles together. And you can see just with a few passes it's already starting to straighten that out and make it more of a valley. So I'm going to take my time here because this is where you can really kind of screw it up if you don't take your time. So I'm going to take my time here, valley all these out, and eventually I'll have them filed down to a peak between each valley. Alright, so now you can see I've pretty much got them filed down to where they need to be. Well, once I got them rounded over, just lay on top and you just good consistent motion all the way across for all of them. And once you get to this point, you want to look along the side, make sure that your valleys pretty much flush up along the line on both sides. Now, if you're using a standard triangle file like this, it's going to taper from smaller at one end to bigger on the other. So while you're doing that, you may have to heel up a little bit to get that line to be more straight. And I flip my knife around and I'll work both sides until I get them to kind of match up with each other. So now that you've got these covered with deep file marks and gouges, and I'm going to use just a piece of sandpaper on my file. You can also use a Dremel tool, you know, with the little buffing cone or polishing cone, using some gritty compound. But considering most people aren't going to have that available, we'll just do the demo with a piece of sandpaper. And it does go through a lot of sandpaper, but it works. So you just wrap the sandpaper around the file, get the nice angle in there, and use the same motions you were using before. You can go back and forth, it's not going to hurt anything. And do that enough, go through enough sandpaper, eventually you're going to have all those file marks out, and you'll be ready to move on to the next step. So there you have it. You got the completed jimping on there. Unfortunately, I made a couple scratches on the blade dragging the file over, which I'll have to go back with my sandpaper and finish out. But if you can see down inside the actual files, you can see that all those deep, ugly file marks are gone, and I'm left with just the 220 finish. Now, if you finished out your blade to 400 or above, go ahead and finish out inside here as well. And then we're ready to move on to the next step after this, and that's heat treat prep.